me talk to you about the place where you live. Is it one of the most depressing towns or cities? Because there's a poll. It's a live poll running as we speak that is listing those top 10 places. Let's have a little look at those places, shall we? See whether or not you live there, or whether or not actually you're sitting there thinking, yeah, my place is really depressing and it's not on the list. Why is it not on the list? Let's bring that list up and have a little look at it. The top place that is apparently really depressing in the UK is Peterborough. Number 2, and OK, I do confess, I don't quite know how to pronounce this one properly, but I'll have a bash. I think it's Meddyhampstead, is it, in the Isle of Wight? If you live there, I'm sure you'll tell me if I've got it wrong. 3, Aberdeen. 4, Paignton. When I looked at the Paignton website, the tourist website, it describes itself as one of the brightest jewels in English Riviera's crown. Make of that what you will. Swindon, Ealing Mead, Yeovil, Tiverton, Basingstoke and Wells in Somerset. Is your place on there? Do you think it should be on there and not? My key point here is, how do we fix these kind of places? I'm not going to get involved in whether or not they're depressing. You know, I'll let you guys fight that out. But if a town is run down, depressing and all the rest of it, how do we fix it?
I think there are huge challenges. I do dispute that Wells is one of the most depressing places. I think it's one of the most beautiful, very small cities in the country, being a Somerset-born girl. But I think we need to reinvigorate our town centres, that there has been a complete depletion for a huge swathe of reasons, from deterring cars and parking to a lot of rebuilding and works, to change of uses, to people having out-of-town centres to go to the incredibly high business rates that are related to the value of the property, and obviously a central location is worth more. The whole system needs reforming because from my perspective, at the end of the day, we are humans. We rely on social interaction. And if you are doing all your shopping, all your goods and services purely online, you are not meeting other people. And that is hugely damaging, particularly for the youngest and the oldest generations who are isolated.
Yeah, and for older people, meeting people in a town square or if the village square is, I would have thought, really, really important. I'll give you one example of a very small town on the Welsh borders where I've been going for holidays since I was a little boy, and it really has changed over the years. There used to be a blacksmith, you know, there used to be a shoesmith, a cobbler. There used to be 2 butchers in the middle of this town/village, a post office, a farm, everything. There are still 1 or 2 businesses in the town centre, but because the local supermarket, which is a good supermarket, moved just to the fringes, it dragged business away from that centre. And I think that's really difficult for people living there. I mean, in my area in London, we've got a thriving high street after thriving high street, but we've also got a massive Westfield round the corner. And I would far rather be in a thriving high street, moving from shop to shop, meeting people, recognising people, than crammed together in this massive sort of mecca of shopping. Let
me show you, if I can, whilst we're talking. One of our panellists, Aaron Bastani, he put a video on his Twitter, I think it was, the other day. And I'm just going to play it for you whilst we are talking. I'm showing it now. This is in Waterlooville in Hampshire. I mean, I don't mean to be rude to anyone that lives there, but look at the state of this. If you're listening, not watching, I'll describe it. It's absolutely decimated. It's like a precinct type thing, I would call it. It looks like it's in the city centre. It is just boarded up shop after boarded up shop after empty shop. You've got a charity shop bummed in the middle of that. It's absolutely dead. Why would anyone go there?
So I think I looked at that thread when your producer sent it to me, and I think an explanation is that there is this big shopping mall just round the corner or not far from there, and that has dragged custom away from that particular centre.
Which are, for many people, far more convenient. That a lot of our towns now barely have a bus service. You can't park. In my local town, you get free parking for half an hour. Well, if you want to go to the greengrocer, the butcher, that we're lucky enough to still have, you can't actually do your shopping before your car's due, and they do have people checking and you will get done. And I think we've really got to reinvigorate by letting people get there to spend time in them, to not feel rushed.
So councils have a role then?
Councils have a massive role, and definitely part of that is the business rates. And I think there should be an encouragement for new businesses to start up. That our greengrocers only opened 2 weeks before Christmas. Young guy, had an idea, took on a shop, but it won't be able to afford the rates ongoing.
But you see, that video that I just shared, I think someone on the council needs to be on the hook for that, because if I think about Hull, you used to have this big, well, you've still got it, you used to have the shopping centre called Prince's Quay, which is one end of town. It's kind of like more towards the old end of town. Then they opened this St Stephen's shopping centre right at the other side of town. So already you're dividing the footfall now, literally between completely different ends of the town. Then you had this old thing called the Prospect Centre, which was kind of in the middle, but not. And I think, me as a customer, it's like, you've taken the fee, you've taken the custom away, whereas what you should have done is tried to centralise it around like this hub that we've got on the screen now. You should have built your new centre in and around that proximity, and then you've got everything together, all the footfall together. And I used to grow up, and we used to say we're going down road, and it was only a certain kind of road, and I guess we'd call it High Street today. And I went down said road the other day in Hull, and it's completely nothing like I remember it. It's a Polish butcher, a halal meat thing, like a God only knows what vegetable kind of shop there. It was just completely different to what I remember growing up in as a child.
And that was sort of the point I was making about this Welsh town, because you just take the Spa shop 100, 200 yards down the road, and that tiny, what we'd think of as a tiny difference, has sucked something of the soul out of the heart of that town. It's still a great town, but it's different.
But also, people go for different experiences, different things. And if every high street has exactly the same chains, all national, all anonymous, big companies, they don't have the attraction to go and find something unusual, a nice present for someone. You literally do your basics and you find the nice stuff on Etsy.
And we haven't talked about digital buying as part of this, but that's inevitably one of the causes, isn't it? And we're responsible, all of us, or a lot of us, because I think it's 35% of retail, something like that, of our sort of shopping is done online. And if we're going to go down that route, and if we're going to be lazy, not everyone can get out and about, but those of us that can, if we're going to be lazy, we are partly culpable.
One of our local supermarkets, they still have the tills open. Another one, they've just reopened the tills. They've got rid of self-service because there's an older population, and that might be the only person they speak to that day. If we lose our town centres, who do those people talk to?
Let me ask you this, though, because we all kind of lament the demise of the high street, don't we? Myself included sometimes. But then if I ask you honestly, when was the last time you actually did your shopping or parts of it online? I don't know, if it's just something simple like your Amazon. Do you still go to the high street? Are you one of those people that goes to the high street, you almost use it as like a shop window? So you'll go, you'll check out your purchase or whatever it is, and then you'll go home and you'll try and go online and find the best possible price for you to buy your stuff. Are you one of those? Get in touch and tell me. Lots of you guys getting in touch. Again, this subpostmaster story, lots of you getting in touch on that. Stephen says, Michelle, in my mind, there's no difference between the mafia and the people responsible for essentially holding a gun to sub-postmasters' heads to confess something that they didn't do. He says it's absolutely unbelievable. Heidi says, well, I live near Yeovil, Michelle, and like many towns in this area, most of the town centres are empty. But you also tell me that you can't even park, you're saying, for more than 30 minutes without paying an absolute fortune. So, yes, she says she does shop online.
Yeovil's on this list, by the way.
It is. And this is a live list, so you can go to, I think it's called ilivehere.co.uk, and you can vote if you want to vote. Who's this? Kay. Kay says, I just want to say that if these are the top 10 depressing towns, then all I can say is that whoever's chosen these towns, whoever's chosen these towns have clearly never been to Doncaster. She says, regards from Kay, who is a depressed Donny resident. She says, was your town on that list? Are you like Kay and think yours wasn't, but it should have been? Get in touch and tell me.